And I believe everybody is now in.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I am calling this public hearing to order at 6 p.m. in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGLC 131, Section 40, and the Boston Wetlands Ordinance, Boston City Code Ordinances, Chapter 7-1.4. The Boston Conservation Commission will hold a virtual public hearing this evening on July 10th, 2024. To review the following projects to determine what conditions, if any, the commission will impose in order to protect the interests of the public and private water supply, groundwater, prevention of pollution, flood control, prevention of storm damage, protection of fisheries and land containing shellfish, and protection of wildlife habitat. This evening's public hearings will be followed by a regular meeting. In accordance with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Conservation Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Additionally, the meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your video. Members of the public may have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. For the record, I am Michael Parker, Chair of the Commission. Could staff present please identify themselves?
Elena Itamari with the Environment Department.
Dee Dee Hernandez with the Environment Department.
Do we have someone new? I see a new picture there.
We do. Elio, if you want to introduce yourself.
Okay, maybe later.
Olio with the Environmental Department.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Now I'll call the rolls of commissioners present. Commissioner Sullivan.
John Sullivan.
Commissioner Long.
Nick Long.
Commissioner Wilson.
Mike Wilson.
Commissioner Conan.
Conan Thiruvengadam.
Commissioner Herbst.
Ann Herbst.
Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is notice of intent for DEP file number 0061987 and Boston file number 2024-012 from Environmental Health and Engineering, Inc. on behalf of the Hebrew Rehabilitation Center for the proposed resurfacing of a driveway and loading dock and associated stormwater improvements located at 1200 Center Street in Roslindale. Resource areas are 25-foot waterfront, 25-foot riverfront area, 100-foot buffer to inland bank. This hearing has been continued from the April 3rd, 2024 hearing. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hi, I'm Megan Farrell from EH&E. I am here on behalf of the team, and we also have Bill Doyle from C1.0 Engineering, and I am mostly going to hand it over to you, Bill. He has been a part of the conversations with the updates that you've been provided and with the Arboretum with Hebrew Rehab.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess that's my cue. I'm not sure how you guys do the PowerPoint presentation, but if you guys want to just go to the first sheet, and I don't know if you want to zoom in just to the graphic area and kind of just crop out the title block. It looks kind of like everything's weird there. I don't know if that's a function of the PowerPoint presentation or
I won't be
or
able
what.
to zoom in.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so there's two areas. They're basically repaving the existing parking, two existing parking lots. This is kind of phase 2 of another project we did earlier, which is to the left of your screen, which is another parking lot that was basically repaved. The difference between this project and that project is that project was in flood zone. This project is up and out of the flood zone, which gives us more of an opportunity to capture and infiltrate. As you may remember, the last hearing we had met and we discussed those topics and then operation and maintenance stuff that we wanted to include. Our original application did not include a large volume of infiltration. Talking with you all last time and having input from the Arboretum next door and downstream flooding and everything, the idea was to add infiltration to this project. This, the graphic we have up is kind of zoomed out. If you want to go to the, I mean, it's two parking lots with infiltration basins. If you want to go to the next page, we can just look at the detail of what we're doing for infiltration, and then also for cleaning up the stormwater, for TSS removal and such. So in the center of the page, standard Caltech system, we're proposing one of these at each end of the project, one at each of the parking lots. This is going to capture, we looked at doing the 1 inch, but we actually got a little bit more than that, just because the configuration of the basins. So we capture the first full 1 inch of stormwater and infiltrate it. So we take that completely out of the equation and infiltrate it. One of the issues that we spoke with the Arboretum about over the past couple of weeks, offline of this hearing, was the ability to infiltrate. And we do understand, and we know that we are in urban fills in this area, and the idea of pervious pavements was discussed. We opted to not do the pervious pavement because we couldn't really understand what was underneath there as far as the urban fill goes. With the infiltration basin like this, we can capture the full runoff in catch basins from the entirety of the site and direct it to underground infiltration, and essentially trap it in there and then infiltrate that full volume. And we can control the design and construction of that area. Upstream of the infiltration basin, we're proposing the Context storm scepter system. We did something similar to this in phase 1, albeit those were much smaller units because we were in the flood zone and in high water. In this application, we have a lot more room to put in bigger systems, bigger basically units that will be able to capture and hold more TSS and everything that goes with that. So we have basically the storm scepter catch basin units preceding the infiltration, capturing all of the parking lots that we're redoing, both one by the loading dock and then one further to the east or the right side of the page. That's essentially the project in a nutshell. The big things we did improve upon from our original filing is the much more robust infiltration and the larger storm scepter units to capture and remove sediments and everything. So with that, I'll if Megan, if you have nothing else to add,
I think you
guys.
covered it. We also had sent to the commission a snow removal plan to re-review. It's what you had approved previously, and the updated owner's manual.
Yeah, so a couple of other things. Yeah, the snow removal plan and the operation and maintenance plan for this system. One of the things we talked about, and I don't know if we'll get into it at this point, is they're just about wrapped up with phase 1. And the idea of potentially, closing that out at the same time. Hopefully we close out this, down the way, and possibly making one operation and maintenance plan that addresses both phase 1 and phase 2, just to make it easier to manage, so that the facility isn't looking at 2 operation and maintenance plans and wondering which parking lot goes to which one. So what we can talk about that, as things unfold.
Okay, great, thank you. So I guess 2 things. We did get a letter from the Arboretum, and they were happy with your revised filing here. So thank you for that. As far as the comments we got from our Urban Wild program, Paul Sutton, can you talk about how you have addressed the concerns brought up in that letter?
And can you?
I have to review to see which, sorry, what that letter included. I believe they were parallel. I mean, mostly.
I think you probably have, based on what I've been hearing here. So let's just go through them very quickly. One is the project didn't propose any reduction in the high rate of parking lot runoff into the stream.
Yeah, originally we did, we weren't increasing impervious area. So we didn't, reduce anything. It was purely just a repaving job. With this, we capture, we definitely capture the first 1 inch of runoff, and then we do get a reduction in rate. And because we capture and retain or infiltrate that stormwater, we do get a reduction in volume. With the so with that, we do reduce the rate and volume going into the stream.
Okay, let's see. Next one relevant here would be the catch basins will be repaired and replaced as needed with, will they be replaced with deep sump catch basins?
So we went up that, not only are they being removed and replaced, they're being replaced with the storm scepter units,
Yep.
which is like, I'm sure you guys know, it's a catch basin on steroids.
Yep. Let's see. In the owner's manual, and I think that's been corrected, there is no mention of how the landscape will be maintained, particularly near the stream's edge.
We're not planning on doing any of the landscaping there. I don't know how we address that.
There
In
is
response-
a mention of the maintenance of landscape area, and there's, we did more with that in the previous NOI, but maintenance is now addressed in O&M plan.
Okay, and then we have the snow removal plan that we have in our file here. Okay, so with that, Eleanor, what do you have on this?
Thank you, Chair Parker. I believe you addressed the questions that staff had.
Oh, okay. Before I go to commissioners, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and then press *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, I had a question. It's part of the site. Do you know how you drain the roof? Do you know where the pipes are that take care of your roof drainage? The building?
I believe a lot of that goes out the front of the building. There is a drainage system along the front edge of the building that I believe picks up a lot of it. The catch basins that we're putting in, there's nothing going into those from roof runoff. Those are more separated from the building. To answer your question, John, I don't know exactly where it goes, but I do know it doesn't go through the new drainage that we're putting in.
Yeah, I guess my concern was as you abandon old structures and old lateral pipes, will you wind up abandoning a connection from a roof drainage?
Yeah, no, definitely not. We're doing purely there's a couple of catch basins that basically pick up these parking lots and then dump directly into the stream one way or another. There's nothing that connects into them from the building. They're purely catch basins for the parking lots.
Right.
They discharge directly to the stream.
If you had any old plans that indicated how they originally did it, we just don't want you having an issue in the future. You put a brand new system for the parking lots, and at the same time you demolish yourself a drainage system for your roof, because we haven't been able to where it goes.
I'll take a look at that. It's probably on the survey plan that we have, because it is fairly robust, but that does make sense, especially even if we're not interrupting any of that drainage with our new drainage. If we're going to repave and there's an old clay pipe under there, it might make sense to know about that and replace it. So I'll take a look at that, but I'm positive that nothing ties into the work we're doing. But yeah, like I said, it makes sense to take a look at that before we pave this down.
Yeah, and if you could just, anything you had, share with us, we'll put it on file.
Yeah.
So later when you lose your files, we'll have a copy and we can
No, we won't be back in here until after I retire, right?
share. Don't say that. All right, that's
No.
all I had.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Long?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and also just wanted to acknowledge all the work you did to increase the groundwater recharge on the site. That's really good to see. You might remember during phase 1, we were talking about the salt substances or the de-icing substances. And I meant to ask this last hearing we had you this past April, but are you still using that? I think it's the Heat Miza performance enhancer. Megan or Bill, do either of you know that? It was like a substance you added to the regular de-icer agent.
Yes, I mean, they've been following the procedures that we set out during that hearing since then, and that was the snow procedures that we provided. Nothing has changed.
Okay, great. That was really all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys hearing sort of what we said in the last hearing and taking it to heart and coming up with a creative and feasible solution for it. The only thing I did see in the Urban Wilds letter, and I'm not sure if you addressed it or whether it was immediately relevant, but in terms of there was like an owner's manual he was referring to in terms of landscape maintenance, particularly near the stream's edge. I just wanted to make sure that that had somehow been covered.
Yes, we added a section on landscape maintenance to that plan.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Conan?
Thank you, Chair Parker. There was a letter, I don't know, Chair Parker, did you cover this and I missed it probably? There's a couple of letters, one pointing out the groundwater charge, which is good. Another one asking about salt application in the walkways. And can the proponent comment on that?
Yeah,
I
I think
think
that's
we-
snow management. Go ahead. Go ahead, you answer.
Oh, no, Megan, go ahead. I think we hit on hit on both of those. But Megan, you can.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is exactly, but that snow plan is what they've been doing since the last one. They've been doing what's been approved.
Yeah, in the snow management plan, we revised the salt mix material that we're putting down. So I think that's what you guys wanted. And then the groundwater recharges was basically the larger underground basins that we put in. So yeah, we addressed those as they say, we addressed those in spades, I believe. Did good on those.
Thank you. It's all Chair Parker.
Oh, good. Thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
No questions. And I want to also share my appreciation of your responsiveness on this. I think it's really an improved plan, and I'm glad that you worked with the Arboretum and with our own Urban Wilds folks. So thank you.
Yeah, the Arboretum was very helpful. We had a couple of long calls with them and some Zoom meetings, and
Great. Okay,
That's all.
thank you. Okay, Elena, anybody from the public?
Yes, I'm seeing one hand raised.
oh, do I do something or it's Mr. O'Brien?
No, he has to unmute himself, and I believe he wants to make a comment.
Yeah, I'm unmuted, I believe, right? Good afternoon.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, thank you for this presentation. I did send in a comment on the salting. It was based upon the NOI, right? So maybe some of the things are in other materials, but I look forward to having staff give the materials so we can kind of make sure that the overall maintenance plan covers, because I do walk through there and see the salt being applied. I also wanted to point out that I think this would have been subject to the riverfront regulations. So I was curious if the commission could advise when we might be moving forward on those. And also separately, although relatedly, the rehab center, which is really an important community resource, was built on a former City of Boston park, but at the time there was really no sort of conservation restriction, deed restriction dynamics, which subsequently has been very beneficial to things within commission jurisdiction. And I did want to advise that community members were having a meeting on Monday on these topics. We've invited environment and commission staff. I appreciate people may not be available, but looking forward to taking these topics up at a time that's convenient for everybody. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Frank, I'm not sure I understood your second point there. Were you asking about the status of future regulations?
Yeah, I think this would be obviously Buzzy Brook would fall under, I think, riverfront regulations, which is the phase. So just looking for any update on that.
Okay, I believe have you been in contact with staff? Staff has latest information. Yes. I guess what I'm saying is whatever staff told you is the information we have. I don't think we have anything to add to it.
Okay, they haven't said anything. So, but I'll ask
Oh.
again. Maybe
Okay.
I wasn't clear on my question.
I appreciate that. Sorry. Okay. Elena, anybody else?
I am not seeing any other hands raised, and the public comments which we had received prior to the hearing are available in the folder for the commission's review.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing, actually issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Do you have a second? Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Long,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye, sorry.
Sorry. Commissioner Conan,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 5. How many do we have tonight? I'm sorry, 6-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is notice of intent for
Thank you.
DEP file number 0061990 and Boston file number 2024-015 from 4 Point Associates on behalf of the Massachusetts Port Authority for the repairs associated with an emergency certification for a sinkhole located at 256 Marginal Street in East Boston. Resource areas are land subject to coastal storm flowage and 100-foot buffer to coastal bank. This matter has been continued from the May 15th, 2024 hearing. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hi, Chair Parker. It's Erica Frazier from 4 Point Associates. And with me tonight is Ann Lagasse and Marshall Greenland from the shipyard, and also Chris Bush and Pam Carnevale from Massport.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So as Chair Parker mentioned, we were last heard at the May 15th hearing. So I just want to give an update to everyone and go over the work that was done and what we're getting an order for. So if you could progress to the next slide. Thank you. Just as a site overview, sinkhole occurred in February. We received an emergency certification in February, and the notice of intent was filed to cover any of the work that was done prior to the emergency certification being issued, and also the remaining work would be the paving that would cover the gravel area. Next slide, please. So the two resource areas that you can see here are land subject to coastal storm flowage and also the 100-foot buffer to coastal bank. Next slide, please. So as again, the sinkhole occurred and we were able to identify the void in which caused the sinkhole. And what had happened was when the sinkhole occurred, the electricity to the marina and the fuel at the end of the pier lost power. So to address that, we needed to excavate around the area to find the electric outage and repair that. And next slide, please. So just as a plan section view, these were the excavation. So we went down, repaired the sheeting, and filled in the area once the sheeting and the gap was closed. Next slide, please. And this is the area now, just showing where the fill is. Next slide, please. I also wanted to just, from the last hearing, these were not included, but just show the plans that we used to identify where everything was located within the shipyard. So this is a plan from 1957 that shows where the electric conduit was. Next slide, please. And then the next few plans basically show where and how the area was built. So it is a relieving platform. So this plan from 1988 shows the relieving platform, how it was built, and we used these plans and the plan on the next slide to understand the repairs that would be made, and that Marshall and his team used to connect with the contractors, and this is what they used to help with the repairs. Next slide, please. We also had one of our engineers go out and map out the area in which the sinkhole had occurred. So this is just to give you a general overview of the area, and also the photos at the top, and then on the following slide show what the area looks like now, which is basically just gravel. We do have the area closed off. If you could go to the next slide. We do have the area closed off right now, as you can see, and it's still posing as, you know, a safety issue. We'd like to pave it to open this area up. We see a lot of foot traffic, and it also is where emergency vehicles can access the pier. So right now there are some steel sheeting over the area just to allow that access when necessary. But the only remaining work is paving. Next slide, please. And just an overview, these were the mitigation measures that we had in place. We covered the soil stockpiles with tarps and put erosion control or sedimentation controls really around the base of the stockpiles and around the excavator. And I believe that is all we have today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Erica. Okay, so a couple of things are going to come up, and we're going to go to our resident expert on this. We have the issue of stamp plans, and thank you for sending in an interpretation of when stamp plans, that requirement may be waived. I did look at the regulation and then look at the MAC handbook. And the MAC handbook quotes that regulation, but then says in the immediately preceding sentence that commission should require stamp plans for ANRADs and NOIs. So I'm going to defer to Commissioner Sullivan on, and I know you've gone to great lengths to provide something as a substitute for stamp plans. The problem that we have here is we don't want to set a precedent where we're not getting stamp plans. And I do remember a quote from Commissioner Sullivan once about how we love our stamp plans. So when we get to him, I'd like to hear what he says. And I just saw a letter, and this might be Chris and Chet, regarding the Massport jurisdiction issue that we have here. And Commissioner Long and myself both were able to visit the site. It was very informative, being able to talk to Ann about the relationship between the shipyard and Massport. And after what Ann told me about being a long-term lease, long-term ground lease of 99 years, and the responsibilities that the shipyard has, meaning that they have to perform all the capital improvements. So they really do step into the shoes of the owner in running the shipyard in a designated port area. I would have to say that I do agree regarding the jurisdictional issue as far as Massport, this following under, you know, an essential government function. That said, Chris and Chet, you know, we have other entities that enjoy the same exemption, but they still file under the ordinance as well, so that we can see what how our ordinance stacks up against the WPA and what differences there might be, if any, for work. And, you know, I think that we would you know, like to see that same courtesy allowed to us by Massport. And the other thing, I think the lesson here for everybody is when this first the project first came in and this issue first came up, you know, the letter in the file from Massport was more of a summary statement saying that, you know, basically, because the shipyard was, you know, standing in the shoes of the owner, then the exemption applied, the jurisdictional exemption, but without all of the facts and circumstances that you've provided in your latest letter and what Ann was able to provide me at the site meeting or the site visit. So I guess the lesson here is for the commission to waive any jurisdiction, that's you know, an extraordinary you know, act on our part. We don't like to waive that. Again, because of presidential reasons and also because of the importance of our wetlands resources. So these are very fact-specific analyses when this issue comes up. You know, it would have been good to maybe get all of the facts and circumstances. And I'm not chastising anyone, but you know, in the future, if this does come up, we're going to need the facts and circumstances as opposed to summary statements. So I know I said a lot about the jurisdiction and Massport, so I don't know if Chris or Chet want to react to anything I've said.
No, thanks, Chair Parker. I think, yeah, that letter was submitted and, you know, relates to the filing that's before the commission this evening, as well as some other pending filings related to port-related maintenance and operation at the shipyard, which again is within the East Boston DPA. So we'll just let that letter stand, and again look forward to you know, further conversations and the commission's review this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have any questions on the filing itself this evening. Elena, do you have anything?
I don't have anything else to note. Thank you.
I just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and then press *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff at email via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Well, you bring up the question of stamp plans, and generally stamp plans are provided to us when someone's proposing to do something. So it's designed by an engineer, making sure it's safe for the public. And that's basically what we try to do. In this case, it appears a lot of work, you know, was done immediately to rectify a situation, make it safe temporarily. And an engineer may not have been on site to even see it. And you're not allowed to take a guess or to really take someone's word for it. Not many people would stamp that plan. The question I have is Massport have jurisdiction when their 99 lease E does work, or do you care? Do you care what they do to your land? That's a question to Massport, I say.
Yes, most definitely, Commissioner Sullivan, and we, you know, through our real estate asset management division, Pan Carnivales, I think with us this evening with asset management, you know, maintains close contact with our tenants, you know, their East Boston, Charlestown, and South Boston properties. So we do work with our tenants, review, you know, filings and material before they are submitted to Conservation Commission or any other state or federal agency as part of permitting or planning. So that is something that we do is you know, try to have as close coordination as we can with these entities.
And do you oversee repairs such as what was done at the shipyard?
In terms of having capital programs, we do periodically engage, and I think Chet can speak to this as well. Capital programs engage in those engineers on a case-by-case basis, as well as you know, LSPs and whatnot. So that is something that is also engaged.
Yeah. So in this case, Chair Parker, it seems to me that if the public or anybody's going to be driving over a repair done where it has collapsed before and a pothole's occurred, and there's electricity involved in it, and you know, we could have another sudden collapse if this is not done right. it's always my preference to have an engineer review the facts. They can stamp and exclude things they didn't see, but say, from my understanding of this, not I always like to see a professional engineer when the public safety is involved, especially on public land, when it's submitted to another agency. You're doing it yourself. I understand you don't have to stamp your own plans. But whenever we do anything that involves public safety, we're going to submit it to another agency. I believe you're supposed to submit it as a stamp plan. And clearly, Tetra Tech can stamp things. I'm not sure who oversaw this, or it was a bunch of local contractors with a bunch of dirt pumping it in.
Yep. So Erica, you did provide a after the fact stamp plan, didn't you?
It's not stamped, but I did have an engineer look at the, it's included in the
Oh, okay.
couple slides back,
Yeah.
but basically
Okay.
saying that this is the work that he saw was done, but he viewed it after the fact, and I think what the question that we were getting was needing like cross sections, which we couldn't provide, as Commissioner Sullivan said. We didn't have an engineer on site overseeing the work per se, but so they're not going to put their name to something that they didn't see. And I think that was, you know, the conflict that we were having was the being able to find someone that would stamp plans for work that was done as a repair that they did not oversee.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Sullivan, what is there anything?
And I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. I just think that if the engineer did submit something, he can submit it to the fact of what he does know and what he can certify, that this was this, and he did speak with somebody, but he didn't observe it. And he can stamp to that fact, stating that he believes it's in accordance, or he's reviewed the work, or he's reviewed the site. And it just seems, I just like having for the public safety portion of it, a stamp plan saying somebody at least looked at the thing. Someone who's of qualifications to look at it.
Yep. I mean, that seems reasonable, Erica. I mean,
yes, I can see again if they will stamp, you know, just what's now existing at the site, if that's what you're looking for. But I think, like I said, the conflict we were having was the oversight. So if the existing plan that I presented a couple of slides back, that they put together is okay, then we can definitely stamp it and send it over.
can we go back to that for Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, so this was what Tetra Tech had put together for us.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what he's, I was just looking for a statement. So a lot of times engineers will give you even a letter report with something, stamped a letter report.
I do believe that we submitted a letter signed by Brian Cullinan in our last filing.
Right, but I don't think it was stamped, right?
No, I do not believe.
No, and you see what I'm saying, Eric? I understand he can't say that this thing's perfect because I watched it go in and I know it's done and I know it was tamped and all that kind of stuff. But they can't say I've gone out there, I've inspected the work after the fact, didn't see it go in. From all observations I see and everything I know for engineering, good engineering practices, this repair is complete. And however he wants to state it. And then they stamp it. It's not uncommon to have that happen.
Okay, no, that we can do. We can have a stamp statement, and I can send that over to Elena.
Okay. When do you anticipate that you would be able to get that?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Right
I'm
away.
just
Yeah,
trying to-
unfortunately he wasn't able to join tonight's hearing.
Yeah, I know you can't predict his workflow. I get it. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out, this is obviously a repair that should be done. Whether we can pretty much count on that certification coming in before work starts, or actually, I guess, Commissioner Sullivan, could we put a condition in that the work doesn't start until we receive that written certification?
Well, you could. I mean, you know, I would take it on face value that it'll be coming in, or else we'll hunt them down.
Give you our office address.
We know where you are, don't worry.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner Sullivan?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Long?
No real questions at this point. Just wanted to say I appreciated everybody's time during the site visit. In particular, Marshall for walking me through the site and getting me up to speed with things. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
I guess I would just say that I defer to Commissioner Sullivan's judgment on this. I've worked on a site that's similar to this, with it transitions from sort of a low level to a high level platform at the water's edge there. And we spent a lot of time chasing our tail, trying to make it right, working with a lot of engineers over time. And I mean, this is a different condition because it's sort of an emergency repair rather than trying to make something permanent. But I think, yeah, I'm inclined to say that this is a little bit more challenging of a restoration process than sort of what your average contractor would be able to do. So having an engineer sign off on it is sound. I think it probably is beneficial to everybody in the long run. And, you know, hopefully the sort of original engineered plans were adequate for the condition and they just weren't followed. But these types of sites are just, you know, tricky to maintain, as I'm sure Massport knows. Yeah, whatever sort of additions to the order conditions or whatnot that Commissioner Sullivan wants to have to protect us and protect the public as well as the leaseholder and Massport, I'm fine with.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Conan?
That all sounds good to me. I'm just curious, because we've heard about sinkholes before. Are there other sites here that have seen sinkholes? And is this like happening in a trend now? Do we know?
So there are active sinkholes at the shipyard that haven't been repaired. We do have a notice of intent in with Elena and the commission for repairs and maintenance, and that includes basically a regular maintenance of these sinkholes. So being able to attend to them. We just haven't been. We've been working with Elena and Massport to get that on the agenda.
So as and when they happen one after another, it would be another NOI.
No. So this would be an NOI that, say a sinkhole does occur, the commission will be notified, but we have already accounted for the impacts to wetland resource areas and the types of repairs that are, and the way the repair would occur when something like that would happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Elena, did we get any raised hands or emails?
We have, yes, one raised hand.
Okay.
And you're
muted, Ann.
You're muted, Ann.
No, I just wanted to say this is going to continue to be a problem. This is a situation where we'd like to replace it all ultimately, but it's a big price tag. It's about $1.5 million, and we're doing the engineering on it right now. So we hope we get this NOI passed on maintenance because this is going to continue to happen and that we can do this in a timely manner. You know, and I'm hoping you vote this so we can put this back together. Short term is, Erica mentioned, this is the entrance to Pier 1, which is the Harbor Walk. It's the entrance to the ICA water taxi. It's, you know, we can't get emergency vehicles down there. It's, I mean, it's a major impediment to the public to get down to Pier 1. So, so we're looking forward to wrapping this up, but let me tell you, this is gonna continue, so, you know, hopefully soon we'll have a plan for you folks to see what we're gonna do in terms of replacing this whole relieving platform, so.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Ellen,
you,
anyone
Ann.
else?
I'm not seeing anyone else, and we didn't receive anything from the public. I did have a quick question, if that's all right, for
Sure.
clarifying the prior to construction condition. I know that Commissioner Sullivan mentioned initially the stamped plans. I just wanted to clarify, are we requiring strictly a stamped letter or a stamped letter accompanying a stamp plan where the letter specifies what things are being what things are basically being affirmed by the stamping of the plan, if that makes sense.
He could stamp the plan and put his conditions on the plan itself. It's like putting the letter information right on the plan. It doesn't matter. We just want certification by an engineer that says this is going to be made safe for the public, especially if you're going to run a fire engine over it or other such things, as best he can determine. He can also have exclusions. I didn't see it backfilled, but I understand we did this, we did that. If they use old license plates to hold back the earth, that's going to be a problem. But the engineer should be able to determine that from talking
Perfect.
to the repair. So
So
either
a
way,
stamp certification by an engineer in some
That's all.
form. Great.
Except on a cocktail napkin.
Except on a cocktail napkin.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions with the additional condition that prior to construction that we receive an engineer's certification that the work was performed safely to the best of their knowledge. And close the hearing.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan,
aye.
Commissioner Long.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Conan,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Night. Next item on the agenda is it has been continued. Notice of intent for DEP file number 0061996 and Boston file number 2024-021 from Epsilon Associates Inc. on behalf of the Boston Water and Sewer Commission for the proposed construction of the North Alston Storm Drain Extension Project to improve the BWSC stormwater management system at approximately 500 Soldiers Field Road in Alston. Resource areas land underwater, inland bank, 100-foot buffer to inland bank, 25-foot waterfront, and 25-foot riverfront areas. As I said, that has been continued until the next meeting in July. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for DEP file number 0061997 from Kleinfelder on behalf of the Massachusetts Port Authority for the proposed security improvements at switch houses 1, 2, and 3 at Connolly Terminal in South Boston. Resource areas are designated port area and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Excuse me, I was just on mute. Andre Marticchini from Kleinfelder.
Okay.
And with me representing Massport is Kathy Ledoux, who's the project manager for the project. Also Chet Myers, representing Maritime Interests, Madeline Sewell from Environmental, and Mary Orlando. So next slide. So the project is a very important project for Massport. I'm glad that several of the commission staff were able to get out there this week and take a look at the site. The Connolly Terminal is a major container port that serves the entire New England region. And you can see in this first picture here, the major cranes, which are electrically operated. There are six of them. And what we're trying to do is provide some additional security for the electric power stations that actually power these cranes. And the problem is the critical nature of these is that should anything damage the switch houses, getting parts for them is very time consuming, and they can knock out the crane service and therefore the port operation for many months. So there are currently some piecemeal protections around, and this is a project to look at something a little bit more robust. And it was funded by the FEMA security grant. Next slide. So the project, as you can see, is located, it's right on Conley Terminal, near the cranes, near the waterside. It's right off the reserve channel, and across from the channel, you see the cruise port. Next slide, please. And this is just an aerial view. We have 3 switch houses, which are called 1, 2, and 3. They're also to the left of number 3 are 2 transformers, which are also part of the whole electric system. And there's a marine operations building to the right, which is a little less critical. It's more of a staff house, and there are also 2 trailers. Next. So just kind of a few photos of the site. You can see this happens to be the Marine Operations Building, and in front of it, you can see some concrete barriers combination. On the right, also concrete barriers that are just kind of sitting there. They're not tied down or anything. Next. Here's a view of the crane, and again, just these are the switch houses, which are basically just small little huts, but right next to lots of moving parts, and so we're trying to protect them. Next. And again, just a couple more shots there. Next. So in terms of accessing the site, in terms of the public, access comes off of Summer Street, and the red axis is the truck route, which all the trucks going in and out all day long utilize. So the contractors' vehicles will be using the same vehicles to access. Next. This is just showing the sort of the property plan. Just to, again, this is all Massport property now, both on this side of the reserve channel and also the other side, so that we have no abutters within 300 feet of the project area. Next. And in terms of regulated resources, this one is, I think, a pretty simple one, hopefully. There are not many regulated resources. There's no vernal pools. There's no priority. This is an entirely paved area. Everything is asphalt or concrete pavement. There are no endangered species of any kind. There are no water resources. There's no wildlife whatsoever, and no areas of environmental critical areas. And we are within the designated Boston Port area. Next. Really the only resource that we are in is land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the entire, basically the entire Conley Terminal is within the flood zone, in AE zone. Next. And again, this is just showing the Conley Terminal in relation to the designated port area boundaries. Next. So coming back to the resources themselves, you can see here that the top sort of red line is the existing seawall, which is the edge of the terminal. The entire area that we're protecting is more than 100 feet from that zone, from that edge of water. The second line would be the 25 waterfront area boundary, and we're outside of that. and the FEMA flood zone for the AE zone, you can see is the green, and the VE zone is more in the blue. We have a little blow up of the next slide. So what we're really proposing here in a nutshell is to put a concrete barrier around these the three major substations and the two transformers designated with the T on the left of number 3. The site has no storm drains within this area at all. We didn't want to introduce any more storm drainage at this point, and so we have some extra openings. Basically, these are just gated openings. The site sort of pitches down very gently. The site is very generally flat, but it does have a slight pitch from right to left. And basically, any water that's going to go accumulate from rain is going to just wash off and go right out through the doors. There is no change in impervious surface. It will be exactly what we have today. So, and then, you know, there'll be security gates at each of the entrances. And that's it. Next. Just a kind of typical what we're building on the left section, which is along the water edge of the wall that's sort of closest to the water. There's an existing large, very large concrete cap, and we're just going to be tying it down to the concrete cap. And then on the areas where we have asphalt pavement, we're going to be tying that, constructing a small footing, and trying not to go deep because we have a ton of utilities underneath that we don't want to disturb. And so we have a kind of an oversized footing to accommodate that. Next. We do have some erosion control details. Basically, there are some catch basins around outside of the work area, but we will be putting in some silt sacks. We will have a protection fence during construction, actually a Jersey barrier, and with a fence on top. And we will have basically a straw wattle perimeter to make sure that nothing leaves the site. And anything where we have some minor excavation, we will be using tarps to cover the piles, well, before they get removed. And that's it. So any questions?
Okay, thank you. So just a quick comment. Commissioner Long, this is the site visit we should have gone on because Andre, apparently you brought our limited staff up on one of the cranes.
Yeah, so I heard.
Let's be careful with that.
I couldn't make it myself, but yeah.
Yeah, but that seemed to be a high point for them. I really don't have any questions on this. I'll go to Elena if she's recovered from her crane visit.
Yes, fully recovered at this point. Very exciting. But yeah, we had no notes. I think everything was covered in the presentation and in the materials. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Before I go to commissioners, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, the security barriers you're putting is for vehicular traffic, so it can't hit the switchgear.
Right.
Yeah, can you drop anything from those cranes on top of it?
Well, no, I don't think so, because the cranes typically the trucks are all typically on between the legs of the crane. Yeah. The only reason those booms go, if you go back to slide 2, the only reason that the booms extend so far back is they retract when the ship is leaving. So when the crane is actually operating, all of the containers are between the legs.
Right, okay. So in that concrete apron, yeah.
Commissioner Sullivan, I could sort of add to this very quickly. I mean, you are correct that the booms of the cranes, because they withdraw, if there are personnel who are on the booms of the cranes, when they are withdrawn such as that, they might be able to drop a tool or something similar on the switch houses, but no containers. The cranes aren't built so that containers can't really move beyond the land segments.
Right, that's all. I wasn't sure how they work. I see them pulling it off, but they can only really drop the containers on that concrete apron.
That's right.
100 foot or something. All right, that was my only question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Long?
No questions for me, just waiting for my crane visit voucher. That's all.
Yeah.
We can discuss that, Commissioner Long.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no, appreciate this, that you guys are being proactive about it, and it brings to mind sort of some of the MBTA's woes where there's one piece of switchgear or one critical piece of infrastructure somewhere along the track. Chance will eventually show its ugly face. So, yeah, hopefully this project's successful. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Conan?
If my options are between a sinkhole and a crane, I'll take the crane.
Exactly.
Especially if I can jump off the crane onto a ship and go on a voyage. So the wall that doesn't have a footing, can it fall, the concrete wall?
It does actually have a footing, Commissioner.
Oh, okay.
It's just immediately below the surface, because we have a number of high voltage electrical utilities that are relatively shallow in the area. We can't make the footing very deep, so it's more of a gravity footing to a certain extent.
Can it fall? Can anything disturb it into falling?
Well, it's designed to hold in place when there's relatively large amount of water pushing behind it. So it's unlikely to just fall on its own.
Mm-hmm. Did I hear, Andre, when you were describing the trucks coming, did I hear something about public access?
Public?
Yeah.
No, there's no.
Maybe I just misheard it. There's no
This
public
is a
access.
secure facility. It's regulated by the so unless you have a TWIC or a maritime badge, well, you need a TWIC to be able to access this facility or be escorted.
I see. Okay. And when the water runs off, does it just sheet off into the harbor, or where does it go?
So there's a stormwater management system at Conley Terminal, and we would expect any water that washes onto the terminal to be managed by that same stormwater management system.
I see. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Elena, did we get any emails or raised hands?
I'm not seeing any of either.
Thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Long?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is notice of intent for DEP file number 0061995 and Boston file number 2024-020 from VHB on behalf of Vertex Pharmaceuticals for the proposed curb, sidewalk, and drainage improvements at 1 Harbor Street in South Boston. Resource areas are designated port area and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hi, good evening. John Hessian with VHB. And I think also in attendance tonight is Mike Ragusa from Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And Alan, do you have our slides ready to go? Next slide, please. So folks may remember that we were here about this time last year for some utility yard improvements to the 1 Harbor Street property that Vertex occupies. we're here tonight. Really, it's the second phase of a multi-phase improvements that Vertex is planning to this particular facility. And we're here tonight with what we're terming interim improvements to Harbor Street. And that these interim improvements are really being driven by our neighbor across Harbor Street to Harbor. That project is essentially complete, and they are obligated to repave mill and overlay Harbor Street. They're committed to do that to EDIC. So EDIC has asked Vertex to kind of fast track the improvements that I'll describe here tonight. Really, it's relocation of the curb on the One Harbor Street side of Harbor Street and construction of a temporary bituminous asphalt sidewalk. And we will definitely be back in to see the commission when the permanent sidewalk and roadway improvements are fully designed and ready to go. But the Two Harbor project is committed to pave Harbor Street this construction season. So we're here tonight to walk through that. The inner improvements, as I mentioned, a minor roadway widening, which is accomplished by us moving the curb closer to the One Harbor Street property, which will provide a 25-foot travel way for Harbor Street. Out there today is a flush curb and sidewalk. We will be replacing that with a grade separated, a typical 6-inch reveal curb and sidewalk. The sidewalk will be bituminous in a temporary situation. Because of that 6-inch raise in grade, we have some precast concrete curb at the back of the sidewalk, essentially as a small retaining wall structure, or there'll be areas where there'll be asphalt pavement transitions from the back of the sidewalk down into the One Harbor Street property. And as you could imagine, with the construction of a raised curb and sidewalk where one does not exist today, that will impact stormwater runoff, which today drains from Harbor Street onto the One Harbor Street property and collected in trench drains adjacent to the building and then back out into Harbor Street. So if you could go to the next slide. And I'll just fly through these. It's just an aerial map showing the One Harbor property and where the leader and the site arrow is. That's the portion of Harbor Street. It's about 550 linear feet of project frontage of the One Harbor Street property. Excuse me, next slide, please. And as mentioned, we're in land subject to coastal storm flowage. The 100-year FEMA flood elevation is 10, which is 16.46 on Boston City base. The existing flush sidewalk is at about elevation 16 Boston City base. So with the raised curb and sidewalk, that will be at approximately 16.5. So right at about that 100-year flood elevation. Next slide, please. And this is also just, we are in the South Boston designated port area, and this is just a map demonstrating that resource area. Next slide, please. This is the site plan showing the improvements essentially from just, we'll call it south of the new Channel Street extension on the opposite side of Harbor Street from the One Harbor property to the intersection at Northern Ave. And maybe if we could go to the next slide, it might show better. We've superimposed it on an aerial. So on the aerial, you can see the light gray shaded area. That's really the limit of work. Saw cutting the existing pavement, installation of a new curb, which is set back a little bit more than 2 feet from the location of the existing curb, and replacing the existing 7-foot wide flush concrete sidewalk with a temporary 8-foot wide bituminous sidewalk. And you can see where the gray area kind of enters Page South into the One Harbor property. That's where we have some pavement, asphalt pavement transitions so that there'll still be vehicular access from Harbor Street onto the One Harbor property. There's also up in the upper left corner, you can see some yellow pavement markings, some crosswalks. There's some limited work at the intersection of Channel Street extension, a little bit small amount of concrete sidewalk, 3 new ADA ramps, and we're going to be relocating eliminating one of the 2 harbor ramps that has been installed at the request of EDIC. The pedestrian circulation out here has been modified to kind of relocate it to where it's shown with the yellow crosswalks. I mentioned, the drainage. If you could stay on that slide, Helena. Because of the introduction of that raised curb and sidewalk, Harbor Street is very flat. We need to install 3 new catch basins and 2 storm drain manholes to be able to adequately drain, that east side of Harbor Street. And then that will be tied into the existing storm drain infrastructure that exists in Harbor Street today. And now you can go to the next slide. And these are just a couple of photos you can hopefully discern. On the photo on the left, that's on Harbor Street looking towards the harbor, towards Northern Ave. And it shows, the flush curb and sidewalk. So it's exactly what that means. It's flush with the existing asphalt pavement on both sides. You can somewhat see on the opposite side of the street where you see the Suffolk logo on the construction fencing there. The 2 Harbor project has installed their vertical granite curb and temporary bituminous asphalt sidewalk adjacent to their future phase 2 development area. So that's in essence what we're proposing to do. And then the photo on the right, that's on Harbor Street at the Northern Ave and looking, I guess, south towards Dry Dock Avenue. And you can see the permanent curb and sidewalk for the 2 Harbor Street project on the right side, and what is the flush curb and sidewalk today. So we'll be mimicking that by raising that to be a 6-inch reveal curb and with that sidewalk. And as I mentioned, this is kind of what's been termed an interim phase to allow the 2 Harbor project to, complete their commitments and as part of their certificate of occupancy for that project. And this is really at the request of EDIC to hopefully kind of fast track it so they build and pave Harbor Street once and not have to come back and redo it again in a year when we come back in with the permanent sidewalk improvements. And I think that's it. I had one additional slide that's just kind of a backup if there were any questions, but that's what I had for a presentation tonight.
Okay, thank you, John. So a couple quick questions. One, the AUL boundary. So is any of this work done in the AUL boundary work?
It is, yes. And actually, that was the extra slide that I had put in case there was any questions. The red dash boundary you can see in this figure is a map disposal site boundary, and the blue outline is the AUL, where we're very constrained as to what we can do. But Haley and Aldrich is the LSP on the project, helping with all the logistics. Same LSP as for the utility yard improvements for all the logistics and compliance with dealing with the AUL. I will mention one of the reasons why we aren't coming in with the full sidewalk improvements has to do with the AUL and BPDA's desire to see some street trees out here. So we're negotiating with the EPA on if there's any flexibility with how we could work with the AUL and actually be able to accomplish some street tree plantings within that blue dash boundary.
Got it. Okay. So as far as this being an interim condition, how long will this be an interim condition?
Vertex is planning to essentially work through the final design of the improvements, through the balance of this year, and work those improvements through EDIC, BPDA, and the goal would be to have those permanent improvements constructed calendar year 20 or construction season 2025.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Elena, do you have anything on this?
We don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot, if you're calling by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, John, when you raise the curb, you put the curb in, are you removing that existing concrete sidewalk? Or are you just putting 6 inches of asphalt on top of it?
No, we're proposing to remove the sidewalk and then just build up the stone base and put in the temporary bit sidewalk on new base.
And where the drives are, the driveways, so the sidewalk will slope down, and then you'll have that grade crossing to the sidewalk, where the driveway is?
Yeah, it'll be a typical City of Boston driveway curb cut. So the driveway will come up to 5 inches and then taper back down on the backside onto the site. So it'll be the sidewalk grade will be consistent through the curb cut openings.
Right. And is any of those catch basins going in the AUL area?
Yeah, one of them.
So how to get the lateral from the basin to the nearest drainage, how big a cut is that?
The length is about maybe 30 feet.
Yeah.
And 5 feet, but that's all considered in, our quantities for excavation within the AUL and disposal quantities and, proper backfill within the AUL. And all of those excavations need to be demarked with barriers to delineate, contaminated material from new clean material.
Yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious how you go about doing all that. That's all. That's all I have for questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Long?
Thanks for the presentation, John. Since this is a private way in the Raymond Flynn Marine Park, who's in charge of maintaining the stormwater infrastructure?
I believe that falls on the responsibility of EDIC.
Okay.
We've been told by EDIC that the goal, and I'll call it maybe a short-term or mid-term goal, is for BTD to take ownership or control of all of the EDIC controlled roadways in the marine park. So ultimately, there'll be City of Boston controlled facilities.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner, EDIC has their separate NPDES permit, EPA permit for all of those facilities out there. So it's the city responsibility with a separate permit. And good luck trying to turn over the storm system.
You don't want it, John?
Not even close.
That was all I had. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
I guess the only thing I was gonna say is that like usually we like to see EDIC come to these types of meetings, especially where you as the applicant are referencing their aspirations further down the road. I think this constitutes one of the more minor things we've seen that on, so I don't think we need to see or get their sense in their words of their opinion, but I just wanted to flag that as in the past they've sometimes come in and said whatever, you know, they've put it in their own words. So yeah, I appreciate what you're doing out there, making it a little bit more pedestrian friendly and sort of updating the sort of use case for it, and seems to be a responsible way.
And just to touch on that, I know William Epperson was in attendance at our hearing last summer for the utility yard improvements, and you know, I guess it may be some bit of comfort there is EDIC is the landowner, so they signed the notice of intent application forms and reviewed all the work that we prepared and have presented. So, but you know, your point is taken.
Okay. Yeah, no, as long as they do seem to be fully aware of this work and everything like that. So I'm glad that seems to have turned a corner there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Elena, you might want to reach out to William and just make note of Commissioner Wilson's comments tonight.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I know that we've had one hearing where we continued because we didn't have the representative. So, okay. Commissioner Conan.
Thank you, Chair Parker. So if it is a fait accompli that BTD is going to end up with the responsibility, is this something that they also need to look at and approve?
No, not until they take it over, I would imagine.
So, and I guess I'll try to answer that. Is the work that, you know, we've been asked to do in the design of the location of the sidewalk, the 8-foot width, where the street tree plantings, you know, is being done to BTD standards, so that at that point in time when, you know, assuming that transition or transfer does happen, that BTD will be you know, taking control of you know, infrastructure that has been brought up to the standards at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes,
that makes sense.
It's an interesting question though. So this wouldn't need to go through the Public Improvement Commission.
Our understanding is that not officially, but that you know, it being run by them, and EDIC is taking the lead on that. Like my understanding is that the project across the street, 2 Harbor, went to PIC for the Channel Street extension because that was actually creating a way, which that was only a driveway, I believe. But they did not go to PIC for the sidewalk and curb and streetscape improvements on the Harbor Street frontage.
Interesting. Okay, sorry, Commissioner Conan. Please go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, I was wondering about how that kind of transfer happens ultimately, and how BTD can be sure that they are getting something that it is up to their code. Sounds like that is the plan here. Thanks for considering street trees, and I hope you'll have some luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay. Elena, did we get any raised hands or emails?
No raised hands and nothing in the inbox either.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Long?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
I vote aye, that carries 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there have been a few continuances. Continued are notice of intent for DEP file number 0061772 and Boston file number 2021-010 and notice of intent for DEP file number 0061961 and Boston file number 2023-051. We'll now begin our regular meeting. First item on the agenda for that is a request for a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 0061774 for the demolition of a residential building and construction of a new multifamily residential building located at 839 Saratoga Street in East Boston. Resource areas land subject to coastal storm flowage. What do we have on that, Eleanor?
So for this project, we have not received an update from the proponent, so we would recommend that the commission hold off on voting.
I will do that. Okay, next item is a request for a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 0061837 and Boston file number 2022-02737 for the construction of a 4-story building associated with associated parking and landscaping located at 1778 Columbia Road in South Boston. Resource areas land subject to coastal storm flowage. What about this one?
So for this one, this is another project that was also on the agenda at the last hearing. There are a few things that needed to be taken care of before we felt comfortable recommending that a COC be issued. We conducted another site visit today and confirmed that the roof drainage system was completed. I will note that if you look at the photos from today, July 10th, there were 2 sort of small covers of some sort that were still there. So we're just going to confirm with the applicant that they remove those. But other than that, we would feel comfortable recommending that the commission vote to issue an order of conditions.
Okay, any questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, with that, I'd entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 0061837 and Boston file number 2022-037.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Long.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Conan.
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Okay, next item on the agenda are administrative updates. What do you have for us, Eleanor?
Yes, so we have 2 administrative updates. Similarly, the first one is a carryover from the last hearing. We had issued, sorry, I'm just pulling this up on my end as well. We had issued an emergency certification for work to be done near the Chestnut Hill Reservoir. There are some site photos available for the commission's review. And the sort of basic facts of the situation were that there was a lot of erosion that was happening because whenever there was heavy rain, water from the street due to inadequate, I guess, stormwater management in the area was overflowing and sort of creating a lot of basically creating a situation where a lot of sediment was coming into the reservoir. This is a backup reservoir that is used for water in the city of Boston. So it was declared a public health or safety emergency by the MWRA, which is also included in the folder. And they will have likely finished work at this point, but we are asking for the commission to ratify this emergency certification.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone?
The pictures are from like dry times, right? Which I understand you don't want to go there when it's like flooding and raining and whatnot.
They are from dry times, yes. And we tried to capture some of the sort of, I'm losing my words tonight, but capturing some of the sort of paths that you can see that have been dug into the ground from all of the times. Like there are clear paths sort of that the stormwater started to follow, which has caused a lot of erosion.
Mm. Yeah, it's a disturbing amount of erosion.
It is, we agreed, yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Well, I guess just a quick question that basically the MWRA's thing says that like the condition has worsened over time. Whose responsibility would it have been to have intervened before it was an emergency? Seems like it's a street overflow issue.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there were sort of a number of authorities at play here. And it seems like something that may have sort of been happening over time as well, and just maybe hadn't been either reported to the right folks, or we're a little bit unclear on how this sort of was able to continue happening for such a long time. But I think that our reasoning was that by the time it reached us and they were requesting an emergency certification and an MWRA had declared it a public health or safety emergency, we sort of agreed that at this point, the amount of sediment that was sort of entering the reservoir during most sort of major rain events seemed to warrant an emergency certification, but agreed that the timing of it is a little bit unclear.
So what basically happened was the city street was overflowing. DCR was consistently just patching it, not telling anybody there's a problem here. So they kept patching. Then it got so bad, it started to endanger the MWRA's drinking water supply. So it's 1, 2, 3. And Water and Sewer has agreed to go in and make changes to the drainage pattern, capturing water, putting in new drainage structures, etc.
Okay,
And-
yeah, no, I'm shocked to hear a 3-letter agency was somehow involved, but yeah.
Well, that's it. They didn't notify anybody till they said we're getting tired of putting dirt back.
Fair enough, yeah.
We said, well, what's the problem? Well,
Is this why you like stamp drawings, John?
Yeah, well, that's why I like stamp drawings. Yeah. So
Okay, thank you.
That's how it happened. Now, Eleanor, has anybody approached you with they're temporarily going to do something? Is the permanent job the temporary fix, or how are they approaching that?
They should have wrapped up the work today, so we're actually going to be reaching out to them at the end of this week, either Thursday or Friday, to confirm. When we had talked to them initially, they said that they thought that they'd be able to get a majority, if not all of the work that needed to be done in the 30 days, but they understood that anything beyond that would need an actual full filing with us.
And who are they?
They, in this case, being Boston Water and Sewer.
Oh, okay. No, I know our operations group is dealing. But
sorry, I should clarify for the record that the person who told me this happened to be with Boston Water and Sewer. I'm not saying that Boston Water and Sewer is a whole.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure all the commissioners understand. The last minute we were brought in to say, what do you think's happening? And what was happening was water was eroding off the street, which should have been captured, in the street and washing out the roadway. And I guess it's been going on for quite a while and nobody told anybody else. That's all. All right.
Great. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to ratify the emergency certification issued by staff.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Great. Commissioner Sullivan?
I think I may have to abstain. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'd rather abstain.
Recuse? Which would you prefer? You've got a choice.
I'd prefer to go back on mute.
Okay.
So
take that as a recusal then. Okay. Commissioner Long?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, Eleanor, what else?
So our second update of the night is regarding a project that the commission had permitted last year, actually towards the beginning of my tenure. It was for the Brook Charter Schools turf field, and this decision was appealed, and DEP came back with their decision today. I've included just the final superseding order of conditions, which they provided, but I also included a link in the staff comments document to all of the materials that DEP has made public regarding their decision making on this and their responses to questions that they received from the public. So I'm happy to either answer any questions or take down notes on questions that I can look into and get back to the commission on, but just want to let you know that this decision came out.
Okay, Commissioner Sullivan, any questions?
No.
Commissioner Long?
Yeah, this is interesting. Did they speak much to if I remember correctly, the applicant had proposed like better forest management or woodland management as part of the project? Did they touch on that much?
So I'll admit that when between learning of the decision and the hearing, haven't had a chance to review it in depth. I know that sort of one of the highlights that they noted is that a lot of the project, as the commission noted during the hearing last year, is outside of the commission's jurisdiction. So that was kind of one of the main points that they wanted to emphasize as well. But I'm not sure if they spoke to forest management in their decision.
Okay.
Maybe I was gonna say, maybe I could short circuit this a little bit. I did take a quick look at it, but didn't have a lot of time. But I believe Commissioner Herbst had some time. Commissioner Herbst, you.
I did look at it a little, and I think there's maybe a paragraph or two that would be worth clipping out for us, because I thought it was interesting. I mean, I feel like they basically affirmed the commission's decision, but there were a couple of areas they said that really they needed to provide stormwater management for the walkways, and that hadn't been in the proposal. And people might remember they wanted sort of an emergency access driveway, which was going to be paved, and DCR said it couldn't be because it was within 100 feet of surface water. So I think there are some little learnings for us in the decision. And in terms of woodland management, not a lot, but they did, as part of, mostly they acknowledged that the vast majority of the trees that are going to be cut down were not in our jurisdiction, but they did talk about some of the work they're going to do. I think cutting down vines that are wound around some of the tree, that they'll do some tree preservation work, and acknowledge that they're doing a lot of new planting. The comments, I just thought their response to the comments was interesting because some of the issues around trees and the turf field and what's in the turf field they did respond to. So I think it's worth taking a look. We don't often get a second set of eyes on our work, so I thought it was an interesting result, and mostly suggested that we took the right approach to it.
Well, that's good, at least, okay, well, yeah, thanks, Elena and Anne.
Great.
Elena,
Commissioner,
can you confirm the numbers that they put here? 70 trees removed, 15 in jurisdiction, 83 trees scheduled for planting, things like that?
I can look into that and compare that to the materials that we received when they filed.
And also the concern about a heat island, DEP says, yeah, we share the concern, but there's nothing really we can do about it because it's outside of our jurisdiction. Would it be in ours, or would it not be in ours either?
Well, at least not in ours today.
Not today.
Mm.
Okay.
And not typically. I mean, yeah, not today. This is the answer.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Commissioner Herbst, anything else to add?
No, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Elena. Any other administrative updates?
That was it.
Okay. Last item on the agenda is acceptance of meeting minutes from June 5th, 2024 and June 26th, 2024. I took a look at them. They just needed very minor edits. Could I get a motion to accept those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Long, this is your last vote on the commission for a while.
Should I say no? No. Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson?
Hi, and there's just, sorry, one thing I was catching up on that was in the DEP letter. They mentioned that they were using hydrophilic plant-based infill material, which I thought was interesting. I had not seen that before. And I know we've had some artificial turf things in the past. So I think one of the questions we had was where turf fields sit within Mass DEP. This seems to be something that I might be able to refer back to.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Sorry.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, so Commissioner Long, sorry to see you go. Good luck. Don't be a stranger.
I won't. I'll keep in touch with you all. It's been great. It's been real.
Now you can be an expert witness or background person for us.
We'll still be calling you with questions. Okay.
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Okay, good luck with everything. Okay, so we just need to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn by acclamation?
Yes.
Okay, good. I will see you all in a month. I'm not going to be here next time. So enjoy half of the summer while I'm gone.
Will do.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Have a good night.
Travels.
Have a good
Thanks,
break.
Nick.
Thank you all.